All right. You guys ready for chapter 3?
Ready, ready.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Ready as I'll get.
Okay. Chapter 3 Deep Works. Rushing water encapsulated Jarrow. The current formed a sphere that warped around him, accompanied by a low, warbling tone that shifted with his movement. He approached a long control panel nested among an array of pipes and gauges. From the torrent, another sphere merged with his. Keeper Elise, I don't think we can close the breach from the control room, but I can triage the damage, Jarrow said, forcing his voice over the roar.
Good thinking, Cog Wavetail.
The keeper said, calm as ever.
Define the problem, then solve it, just as you trained in Builder's Basic.
Jarrow restrained a smile. He pulled up a series of holographic displays and began moving his paws, engaging the translucent interface. He toggled a set of ribbon sliders into position, then flipped through feeds, grabbing them with a paw and tossing them aside. Keeper, if I perform an emergency closure on access tunnels 13 through 20, I think we can slow the flooding. On a fresh display, the Deepworks schematic bloomed to life. The keeper spun it from a side profile to a bird's eye plan view. She zoomed in to inspect the specified tunnels.
Agreed. We can also reduce sluice gate 2 alpha to 10%.
Green switches clicked beneath Jarrow's paw, one by one, then bled to red. The keeper spun a dial back with one paw while using her body to steady the display, monitoring the gate's flow rate.
This won't stop it.
The keeper kept the dial steady.
But it buys the emergency team time.
What do you think caused this? Jarrow asked.
I'm not sure.
The keeper's eyes hardened.
Pull the feeds back up.
With a spread of his paws, Jarrow slid the displays back into alignment. He returned to scanning the various locations throughout Deepworks.
There.
The keeper pointed at one of the 4 displays, halting Jarrow's progress. 3 dark-cloaked figures moved hurriedly down a pipelined corridor. Jarrow fixated on the screen. This wasn't an accident.
I'd bet 1,000 greens it wasn't. In all my years, I've never seen damage like this from a malfunction.
The keeper paused, then pointed to the bottom left display as 3 obscured shapes entered from the left and moved through a round tunnel lined with parallel piping.
That tunnel leads straight to Turbine Gallery 2.
She pointed at the display.
We're closer than any response team. Call it in as we move.
Lockers lined the wall. She went straight for them and pulled out 2 large metallic discs. After giving them a rhythmic tap, they sprang to life, hovering half a tail above the ground. She jumped onto one without hesitation. Jarrow stepped onto the other. His web foot slipped off the edge, and he ended up mounting the platform belly first, then spun his lower body around and found his footing. The keeper watched him maneuver his pear-shaped body into place. A patient, flat-lipped smile tugged at her mouth.
Ready, Cog Wavetail?
Affirmative, keeper, Jarrow said, standing upright. With their acoustic spheres shielding them from the torrent, they shot down the arched passage where the flow had subsided. What if they reached the turbines first? Jarrow asked as they swept through the long straight section. What if they do more damage?
Call it into 3rd shift. Stay on my tail. I'll notify Ordinate Roll. We need backup.
The keeper said, glancing at him. Jarrow braced a paw against his temple and formed a mental link. 3rd shift notified. They sped through the tunnels, making quick work of a route they knew by heart. A pale figure lay motionless across the corridor ahead, ghost white, damp fur plastered to its body. Webbed feet trailed in the stream of water rippling down the center. A long, rat-like tail was wrenched into a horrific knot, limbs frozen in contorted poses. Keeper, Jarrow's voice caught. A Nutria Sentinel. What happened to her? The keeper hopped off her disc and placed a paw to the bleach-white rodent's neck, checking for a pulse. She shook her head slowly.
I don't know, but we're going to find out.
Her eyes hardened.
She's gone. I'll report it to the ordinate. We keep moving.
They were nearing the location from the holographic feed,
We're getting close.
the keeper said.
Stay vigilant now.
Jarrow shifted his webbed feet and tried to turn his disc to check behind him. His balance faltered and he aborted the movement. He closed his eyes and placed a paw on his temple again. The keeper turned her head over her shoulder.
No pulse scan. I already ran one. Nothing behind us. Save your energy.
Affirmative, keeper. A circular doorway marked the end of the tunnel. Turbine Gallery 2 was stenciled above it in blocky white letters. They stepped off and deactivated the hovering discs. Jarrow managed it cleanly this time. The door was propped open by a locking bar that hadn't been re-engaged. This part of Deepworks was dry, aside from minor leaks that pinged occasionally as intermittent drops fell from old fittings. With Jarrow on her tail, the keeper slowly pushed the door open. They entered a long room with high ceilings, padded with repeating half-cylinders emerging from the floor and robust pipework winding throughout. Rectangular units spanned the far wall, generating a roaring hum that vibrated in Jarrow's teeth. The keeper looked at Jarrow, and without moving her mouth, communicated a feeling into his mind.
Stay quiet and stay close.
Jarrow's mouth tightened, and he nodded. They wove through the vibrating metal maze. As they moved deeper, distant chatter emerged through the white noise. High-pitched squeaks followed. A short, throaty shriek faded. Then a round of screeches. The keeper looked back at Jarrow, eyes narrowed. Jarrow lifted his paws in a helpless, questioning gesture. A faint, blood-red glow bled through gaps in the machinery ahead, casting shadowed movement across the near wall. Before they could catch a clear glimpse, a guttural voice stopped them in their tracks. They froze, stacking tight against the side of the nearest purring turbine. The keeper flipped down a transparent monocular. Here's a question. Monocular?
Yeah,
Is that
I think so. That's what I would say.
okay? Okay. All right. The keeper flipped down a transparent monocular eyepiece. Jarrow followed. With swift, tactical precision, they moved around the corner. Paw to temple, the other outstretched facing forward. The three figures they had seen on the monitors were suspended mid-air. Their cloak hoods had fallen back, exposing stout, furry heads with pointed snouts. Their bodies were contorted, arms and legs shifting in grotesque configurations. At the center, the source of the blood-red light revealed itself. Filaments of energy were being drawn from the smaller members of the formation, funneling into a coalescing crimson gyre. At
Yeah,
its focal point, what's that?
I think gyre. I don't know.
Gyre.
That's
Oh,
yeah,
like gyroscope.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. A coalescing crimson gyre. At its focal point stood a larger, heavily muscled version of its smaller counterparts. Smoothly wielding sharp claws, the behemoth gestured with practiced control, shaping the vortex. A maniacal smile anchored its vicious nose and sallow, sunken porcelain eyes. What stood out to Jarrow, though, were the teeth. Fangs, the kind you'd see on big cats or other predators, protruded down and out of its wicked mouth. Jarrow and the keeper froze, stupefied by the stage of alien information that had invaded their familiar world. The larger creature's focus shifted. Its smile faded into a devilish glare as its gaze locked onto the keeper. Her eyes rolled back, whites exposed. She burrowed into the beast, her outstretched paw grasping at blank air. Jero felt it like a sledgehammer. A wave of nausea and a splitting headache overwhelmed him and drove him to his knees. He looked to the keeper for help, only to realize he was merely collateral. Keeper Elise doubled over and released a ragged scream that echoed through the gallery. Sanguine coils of energy formed between them, flowing away from her and into the brute. The three smaller creatures dropped to the ground and the keeper lifted into the air, drawn toward the hulking, vampiric form. The villain laughed, deep and vengeful. The sound hit Jero with the explosiveness of a shockwave. Jero's eyes darted, looking for anything that might help. Generators, ceiling, turbines. The brute stood on a large pad, marked by nested triangles forming a 9-point star. Thick, thick tentacles connected the pad to the machinery. Heavy cables expanded and shrank like a flexible straw, drawing down a thick substance. As the engorged section moved from turbine to platform, it released a deep orange glow that highlighted the veiny structure. Jero's monocular caught an anomaly along the sidewall of a pipe. A blue waveform pulsed across his eyepiece. High pressure, routing into the turbine. The corrupted growth had finger-like roots along the pipework, compromising the structure. Helplessness fell away, and his jaw set. Jero focused on the water within the pipe. He manipulated it into a zone of pressure that induced powerful shock waves. The pipe shook violently and began to hammer, every molecule straining for release. The pipe erupted. A rush of water inundated the creatures, knocking down the two nearest the rupture. Jero's posture now mimicked the keeper's, paw to temple, the other outstretched. He turned his attention to the smaller creatures and targeted the only one still on its feet. Jero reached into its mind. It was chaotic, full of malice and hate like he had never felt before, as if it was its only purpose. He saw flashes of dark landscape beneath a deep maroon skyline. The creature flew on a wide-winged, stark gray bird with a thick bill. The scene jumped. Another, smaller member of its kind embraced it. Love. Comfort. The contrast hit Jero so hard it nearly pulled him under. Malice and warmth braided together in a way his mind struggled to hold. Jero's eyes softened. His mouth loosened as he tried to find a weakness, to mold its mind to his bidding. Then nothing. He looked up. The creature was gone, leaving only a fading red mist where it had stood. With a grin, the pale giant pointed a blade finger at the empty space. Behind their master, the other two squeaked and rushed for cover. Jero saw them reach into a small bag and pull out a hollow metal loop. They expanded it to the size of a wide doorway and threw it at the far wall where it adhered. From the smooth circumference, black liquid filled the ring, wavering like the surface of a raging ocean. It lapped out, sucked back, then calm to modest peaks. Jero's vision snapped back to the keeper. She was being drawn within touch of the demon. The smooth brown of her coat went coarse and stark as she neared it. Her body withered and thinned, anemic, like an old apple core left to rot in the desert. Even her strong paddle tail dangled limp. All the while the color of the demon deepened, its coat turning a shade of burnt charcoal. Jero shook his head and gritted his teeth. His feet carried him forward without consent. He charged, terror burning behind his eyes, and unleashed his fiercest battle cry. One of the smaller monsters stepped out from behind the pale beast and lifted a paw at Jero. Jero became weightless. His momentum inverted. He flew backward across the room, slamming into the wall. Deepworks reasserted itself. Jero sucked in a ragged breath. The blood-red glow was gone. replaced by a familiar blue lighting. The rhythmic hum of the generators dominated again. Jero tried to stand and collapsed to his side against the cool, damp stone. A biting headache flared as his senses sharpened. Propping himself with his right arm, he involuntarily opened his mouth and released a stream of bile that pooled and ran back toward him. He looked down. A white, jagged stick protruded from his blood-soaked fur. Jiro scanned the room. In the distance lay a disheveled, stark white pile. Arm over arm, he dragged his broken body across the gritty floor, stopping every few pulls to grimace and catch his breath. When he reached with the withered lump, he grasped the side and rolled it over. Keeper, he choked out, scrambling for a pulse. She was still. Opaque white marble sat in their inner sockets. Drying blood streaked from the corners of her eyes. Matching streams ran from her nose and ears. Jiro lay beside her for a moment. Then he heard the approaching slaps of webbed feet down the gallery. We're over here, he yelled, voice cracking. Help her! A series of thin-tailed Nutria sentinels rushed into the space between the turbines where the battle had unfolded. An aged, graying sentinel knelt beside Jero and placed a paw on his chest, assessing his vitals. Is this one me or
Oh, wait.
I
Yeah,
didn't
this
have it
one's
marked
you, and
up.
the other one's Jack. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. You're gonna be okay, pup. Jero reached toward the keeper. What about her? Another light brown sentinel knelt by the keeper, lips pursed and flat. She squinted, then shook her head. Jero's vision narrowed. Darkness worked in from the edges. He turned his head and saw a rotund beaver approach with a twisted cane. A scar crossed his silver face, cutting over a patched eye.
Ordnate roll.
A sentinel said.
Keeper Elise is gone. The cog needs medical, now.
Muffled chatter filled the turbine gallery. Jero's vision collapsed to a pinpoint as he was lifted off the gritty surface.
Woo. Nice job.
Thank you.
It's
Chapter's brutal.
Keeper! Elise! No!
yeah.
Brutal.
Gotta start off with some some real tough stuff.
So I guess, yeah.
Kick the book off
Just
right.
Putting them through it. Putting them
Seriously.
through it.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it. Like you guys are so Alyssa was in the chat and she was saying that I read this all to her. That was like my last draft read through. And yeah, you guys are really adding a lot of depth to all of the voices and the story. So it's really cool hearing it from you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That
It's really fun.
Thanks.
It is tough to do a live reading without a whole bunch of experience.
Yeah.
You did
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
Awesome.
I love all the
that's a-
artwork in the book. Sorry, I just have to say that. I'm looking at this
Yeah.
cute little
Oh yeah, the chapter art.
cute little guy. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that chapter is crazy. I mean, just so much happens. You're introduced to two characters, you lose one, and then
Yeah.
the other one's we don't even know what's happened to the other one yet. So, poor Jero, he got put through it in his first chapter.
Yeah, I really hope that like these first chapters are like switching point of view and like switching to each of the kind of the main character and like the supporting main characters. And I was really hoping that didn't like lose people early on. I was hoping if anything it kept momentum and like interest and you're like, oh, new character, and hopefully it's like clear that they're all going to come together. But yeah, I was a little concerned with that, but I felt like it flowed right, so I was going with it.
Yeah.
I think it works really well. I think it's also like having generally just been reading more by different authors and all that. I think third person in particular works really well with multiple points of view. I personally feel like I like a limited first person POV. I know sometimes there's multiple first person POVs, but third person, like multiple points of view, I actually prefer
Mm-hmm.
if there's going to be multiple points of view.
Yeah.
So I think it works really well.
Yeah. I agree. Thanks.
Very
Let's see
cool.
if chat's got anything for us.
That's very nice.
You asked what favorite characters. Did you ask that earlier? I thought I saw that.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
We got some. Your mom saying Marion Flip for sure. A character that comes up near the end, but she doesn't want to spoil anything. Yeah. Yeah, there's some additional characters that'll get introduced throughout the book as well. But these intro chapters, these first 4 chapters, are kind of opening it up for the 3 main characters. And I guess Flip is a main character as well. So I always say 3, but it really should be 4, I guess.
Right. That's funny. Flip.
Yeah, I really love the way, kind of, I won't spoil anything about this character, but the way that villain is described in that chapter, it really sets him up to be this really intimidating presence.
Yeah.
Because it describes their smaller creatures, but then there's a giant towering one as well, and the fact that he doesn't speak a single word, but then he literally steals the life force of one of the main characters in the chapter. You're like, wow, this is a pretty crazy character.
Not to be messed with.
I like
Setting them up as powerful too is good.
Yeah. It's again that whole it doesn't hold its punches thing that I really like. So for sure.
Cool. All right. Anybody else in the chat, or you guys got any more thoughts before we move on to the last chapter we're going to be reading today?
Went by so fast. I mean, I can't believe we're already on chapter 4.
I know.
It did go by pretty fast. Yeah. Very cool.